must be 1983. Do you guys remember a movie called oh gosh, what was it? It was about nuclear war. Do you remember this? It was No, War Games. That was a great movie. I'm talking about when I was on TV that scared the hell out of me. There was The Day After. Do you remember that movie, The Day After? This was traumatizing, and they had this thing on television. But basically grew up understanding that the world at any moment could end because the United States and the Soviet Union were headed for conflict and war, and that, maybe we wouldn't even make it to 25 and things of this nature. I forgot about War Games. War Games is another good movie, where this guy hacks into the computer. This was an 80s hacker. This was not, I can remember the phone and the modem, and what was that actor? It was the same, Matthew Broderick. It's a great movie. I know I'm completely off topic, but let me just tell you, I lived in Las Vegas at the time, and if you recall, the first city that he blows up in the War Games is Las Vegas. And I was sitting in the audience, and so everybody's like chuckling. There's nothing funny about this Las Vegas strike. In any event, so this is where we grew up. And then in 1989 and 1990, 91, it was my first years in college. And literally the entire world just transformed before my very eyes. Understand, you grow up your whole life and like the whole world is about the Soviet Union, and all of a sudden the Soviet Union no longer exists. The point is, the whole world transformed. And there was this effusive exuberance, the belief that the Cold War is over, we won, and now the entire world is going to become just like us. Free enterprise democracies. This is a very idealistic thing to believe. But here's the other conclusion they made. And that is that nationhood no longer mattered when it came to economics. That right now the world would no longer have borders. It wouldn't matter where things were made. What mattered is they were made in the most efficient place. And it became mantra. And look, I think it became part of Republican orthodoxy for a very long time, an orthodoxy that I came up in, which was, it's okay if productive capacity moves to another country, because what that will do is it will free up our workers to do work that's even more productive and pays them more. It was the famous or the infamous idea that who cares that you lost your job at a factory, you're going to learn how to code, and then you're going to make a lot more money doing that. Well, it was completely unrealistic, number one, and became incredibly disruptive that decision was made. But here's the other implication of it. It robbed the nation of its industrial capacity. Industrial capacity mattered in terms of national security. And that's never changed. That's always been true. And so today what you find is, because of all of those years of neglect, because of the loss of industrial capacity, we didn't just undermine our society, we didn't just undermine our domestic economy, we've undermined our position in the world. And what you will find, and what we find even now, is that increasingly on geopolitical issue after geopolitical issue, it is access to raw material and industrial capacity that is at the core both of the decisions that we're making and the areas that we're prioritizing. Part of the decisions that were made were, in the end, if something is good for the global economy, that's really what matters. Ultimately, a lot of public policy decisions were made without the nation state in mind. Rather, the decision was, is this good for the global economy? Is this good for global economic growth? Is this good for prosperity in other places, even if it may not be in our interest? And we made those decisions even during the Cold War to some extent. I mean, we allowed nations to treat us unfairly in trade, but we allowed them to do it because we didn't want those countries to become victim to a communist revolution that would overthrow them. But then we kept it going. And so today there are multiple countries around the world that are fully developed economies, but whom we have enormous trade imbalances because they want to continue that system moving along, and that has to be corrected. The idea that our foreign policy, depending on the place and on the issue, should be centered and focused primarily on what is good for the United States was completely lost. Time and again, we made decisions in foreign policy because of what was good for the international order or what was good for the world. And I'm not saying those things are irrelevant, but the number one priority of our foreign policy of the United States, the number one foreign policy priority of the United States needs to be the United States. And what's in the best interest of the United States.
偷偷告诉大家，我最近发现了新法宝 Royal Face 逆时奇迹系列，它有活肤露、全效精华，还有精华霜。尤其我皮肤比较偏干，所以我非常的注重保湿。保湿做得好，肌肤自然丰润。提亮肤色更年轻。抚平皱纹超有感，而且气色变好。 用心保养，每天都更美一点。美吧。